Mark Twain said, in hell it's always 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I hope that you're not feeling that tired afternoon feeling, and I hope that the presentation we have for you this afternoon will be of value to you. I really appreciate President Jones and his enthusiasm for our presentation. Okay, all right. And I really appreciate you being here. As we gather today, we stand within a great, even overwhelming at times, and rich tradition. And all of us who are alumni, and yes, I am one of you, we take for granted our rich and storied past because we have so much pride in it. We cherish the names that have come before us and are now iconically engraved in our history. Names like Charles Coyle, Basil Overton, whom we're mourning at this time, David Underwood, Jim Massey, Wayne Kilpatrick, Charlie Payne, Vernon Shuffett, Dennis Jones. And I'm making a mistake by naming names because I'm going to leave somebody else out. But in more recent history, Coy Roper, who will be honored tomorrow. And the reason why I say we take our history for granted is because in 1971, our little school was not an establishment with all of this rich history that we enjoy today. We were not the burgeon of historical tradition that we can now cling to. In fact, the earliest advertisements that came out for International Bible College in that day caused me to have a big smile when I go back and read them, because they point to the ideas and the values of visionary leadership. I hope now you can see on the screen here behind me an advertisement that's found in the Firm Foundation from August 10th of 1971. Now, in the advertisement, Southeastern College of the Bible is the name that's mentioned, but the name was changed less than 2 weeks later from this advertisement to International Bible College before the semester began. And the college is advertised as a new college with new ideas, or with a new idea. And under Charles Coyle's leadership, International Bible College set out to be something new and something different with a different idea. And what was that idea? That idea was to be a Bible college for churches of Christ, intent on recruiting, training, and encouraging church workers. And if that doesn't sound like a novel idea to you today, the reason why it doesn't sound like a novel idea to you today is because of the visionary leadership of these men 42 years ago. Their dream paved the way through innovation and new ideas to a new reality within which you and I as alumni were trained and educated and encouraged. And I just want to stress to you how important it is to realize that this was truly a new idea. As you can tell from the subheading, I don't know if you can read it there, but the subheading reads, Southeastern College of the Bible is neither an exclusively preacher training school nor a liberal arts college, but a co-educational Bible college. You see, at the time, there were two models in place. One model is the Christian Liberal Arts College. We're very familiar with these schools. Christian liberal arts schools are schools like Freed-Hardeman, Harding, Lipscomb, and Faulkner. The other prevailing model of the day was the preacher training school, at least within Churches of Christ, or preacher training schools like the ones at Memphis and Sunset and Bear Valley and various other places. But IBC was something new. Something different. It was a new college with a new idea. And so as we look at these two models, you can see the differences. A Christian liberal arts college model is designed to offer church work as a degree or a training amongst other coursework. A preacher training school model is designed to provide intensive training, 2-year training usually, in Bible and ministry skills. Preacher training schools don't typically offer things like general education, English, and history. And they don't typically seek things like accreditation. But International Bible College sought to be part of a design of college called the Bible College, which was intent on offering Bible and ministry training, not as one program among many, but as the single purpose of the institution. IBC was designed to be an actual college that led to bachelor's degrees and offered coursework to provide a holistic training for ministers and church workers. Now, among the 10 reasons right below this advertisement, there are 10 reasons listed why you should come to Southeastern College of the Bible, which very soon became International Bible College. Now, I share these with you because these initial and early values set the stage for the values of our institution very early. And those values have permeated the things that we do for 42 years. Now, I hope you can read them, but I'm going to kind of sum them up in short language here. Number 1 basically says that instruction is provided at the school that trains all sorts of church workers, from the preacher all the way to the song director. The second item mentions that we give practical experience, and it's an integral part of our curriculum. We don't just teach the know-whats, we teach the know-hows as well. The third item says there's a focus on the balance of subjects. And the reason for that is to produce balanced graduates who come out with a holistic education. And number 4, I think, is particularly important. In the very beginning, IBC was designed with the intent and the very purpose of mixing academic excellence, Bible knowledge, and evangelistic zeal in every degree. These were not to be separate realities, but to be an integral mix, integrated together to train the best graduates it could train. And number 5 lists the integral role of faculty, and that is that teachers, in order to be able to give these values to students, must have strong academic training and successful experience. And this together leads to scholarly yet very practical application and inspiring instruction. It is at this point in the presentation you are probably asking yourself what the value is of this little history lesson that I'm presenting to you about the innovation and the ethos of our little college and our alma mater. Well, here's the point. Very recently, I put out a survey that went to all alumni, and when we received feedback from you, maybe not you literally if you didn't fill out the survey, but you as a whole, as a group, we received mixed feelings from you about whether or not HCU today is as clear in her mission as you would like for us to be. We received comments back like the following: catering to academic issues at the cost of evangelism, loss of focus on producing great evangelists and ministers, too much higher education, no practical education or training of servants, essential shift from its original vision, the gospel to the whole world. Now, what I want you to know through this lecture, and what I hope that I can communicate very clearly through the things that are to follow, is that from the bottom of our hearts and very deeply, we want you to know that we heard you on this survey. But also at the same time, our hearts were a little hurt, to be just frankly honest with you. What I mean by that is we all acknowledge that Heritage Christian University is not the same as we were in 1971. But at the same time, I want to ask you, would Charles Cole want us to be exactly the same as we were in 1971? And what I mean by that is we've innovated in very significant ways since that time. In profound ways. We've added a distance learning program. And many of you know and understand we added a distance learning program before distance learning was cool. Back in the early 90s, we were pioneers in that realm in ministry training. We've added graduate level degrees all the way up to the Master of Divinity level in order to meet growing and complex demands that happen in our culture and our churches every single day. We've sought advanced accreditation because we want to meet your needs for advanced transfer of credit so that you can get into schools that you may want to get into after you leave here. And it would seem to us that these innovations do not contradict the spirit of our founding and do not contradict the memories of our founders. In fact, it seems to me that they honor them. Our original purpose to train church workers remains firmly implanted in every single thing that we do. And so that's why our hearts were a little bit hurt. So even though we might add graduate programs, for instance, including the MDiv, and even though that might slightly change the model of education which we provide, maybe giving us some variance or resemblance to other seminaries or other theological training grounds, we have not abandoned our undergraduate program, nor have we abandoned our Bible college beginnings. And that's why it's important for you to know that our hearts were a little hurt by your feedback. Now, at the same time, we don't want you to lose touch with who we are. And when I say that we're listening to you, I really mean that. And I want to reassure you that I'm not just blowing smoke this afternoon. We've already begun extensive conversations at the faculty and staff level, at the administrative level, even at the board level, to plan our strategy for the next few years, which we believe will be one of the most crucial points in all of our history. And these are real meetings that are going to lead to real improvements, that are going to lead to real change and real innovation. And we need to know from you what your honest feedback is. And so that's why we appreciate you being honest with us. But we don't want you to lose touch with who we are right now either. We want to spend a few minutes opening ourselves up this afternoon, if that's okay with you, so that you can get to know us a little better. I've asked Dr. Bill Bagents, who is our Vice President of Academic Affairs, to come now and talk to you from the vantage point of the highest academic office that we have at HCU. Dr. Bagents has the charge of academic activity at HCU. In other words, it doesn't happen unless Bill approves it. And I'd like to give him the floor for just a moment.
You'll notice that Michael and I both love notes. Notes to me are like the blanket with Linus, and they help me in all things. We acknowledge to you that HCU is different than it was 42 years ago. You know that. No need to lie. It's just a fact. There's some cool ways in which we're different and some reasons for it. The world in which we live is more technological than it used to be. I don't live on that curve, but some of you live on the edge of that thing. The world is more educated than we've ever been. And because the world is more educated, the brethren expect leadership to be more educated and able. That said, we have to be careful because we want to serve to the best of our abilities, but we do not ever want to tell you that we disparage your training or your role. If I were the devil, I would sit on your shoulder and tell you, when Heritage adds a graduate program, we have invalidated your BA and told you you're no longer good enough. But you know the devil lies. If I'm the devil, I would sit on the other shoulder and tell you when we add an MDiv, we've told you your MA or your Master of Ministry is not good enough anymore. Not true. The devil always lies. When we add a Doctor of Ministry, the Lord allowing, sometime in the not too distant future, if I were the devil, I'd sit on your shoulder and tell you, your MDiv is no longer good enough. You can't serve with a professional degree unless you have a terminal degree. Oh, baloney. We appreciate the service you give. And we never want to work toward discouraging kingdom workers. God's kingdom is large and needs workers at every level. Some of us are going to be relationship builders, and we set the stage for the teaching of the gospel. Others are going to be gifted one-on-one evangelists, and if we can get you an interested soul, you will win that person to Christ. Others are going to be the golden-tongued orators. People come to hear. Not me, but some of you will be that, and God bless you in doing that. Some are going to be grounding and educating those who are converted in this culture. But I never dreamed we'd send Bobby Leake to prison. I never dreamed he'd be a chaplain converting people. Never dreamed that Bobby would promise me, we think we're going to baptize 8 people next Monday, and then he comes today and says, Bill, didn't mean to mislead you. It was 11. God bless you. Do that good work. We love that. Others are going to excel in ministry of leadership. And what we're thinking about here is that those different services, they presuppose different levels of education, formal education. Bobby was educating Bill and Rosemary on prison ministry today at lunch. Taught me more about prison ministry in a few minutes there than I might learn in a bunch of different classes. I love that. Informal education is sometimes the best deal in the world. We love kingdom workers. We want to train, educate, encourage, empower kingdom workers. And we believe like you believe. Whatever you do, do heartily, as to the Lord, not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. And we love that. We want to keep learning and growing so that we serve more fully and more deeply. But there's some things I want to promise you we will never forget. The list isn't exhaustive, but it does my heart good to think about it. We will never forget all scriptures given by inspiration of God, and if it's not biblically approved, it's not good. We will never forget that it's the Holy Scripture that makes one wise to salvation through faith that is in Christ Jesus. It's not personality-based, degree-based. It can't be. It has to go back to Jesus always. We will never forget that the Lord's church is the Lord's church. We're servants of the church. We love serving the church, but Christ is the head of the body, and President Jones has no illusion that he's president of the church. Never talks to us in that way, never thinks in that way. We want to always aim toward Jesus. We will never forget the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, to give his life a ransom for many. You know me, I live on the dark side sometimes with humor. When I'm not boring, I'm dark. One day recently, we were in a meeting and we talked about the fact that the devil has kind of sold some people on the idea that we've lost our emphasis on evangelism and practical ministry. And I start laughing during the meeting, and so they want to know, what's wrong with you? Well, what's wrong with me is Wayne's class is viewing video, really digitally captured material, because he's in the Dominican Republic teaching preachers. And at that particular time, Dr. Gallagher's in the Philippines teaching preachers. Nathan comes by and talks to me and says, Bill, I just wanted to give you a little report. Last week I taught 3 Bible classes at church, and I'm just proud of you. Glad you're plugged into ministry. A little bit before that, Don Snodgrass talked to me about he and Rosemary want to go to Cape Town and work with Philip and Rosalind Hendricks, alumni in evangelism. And we just think about the barriers. There's nowhere the barriers don't go. And they'll go to places that aren't shiny, that don't smell good, and our kind of people, because they're taking the gospel to people who really need it. And then you think about Ted and day-to-day ministry and Rosemary with the counseling, and oh my, it's just wonderful to think about how we're plugged in. We just absolutely hold on to and prize that concept that our work is not done until the knowledge of the Lord fills the earth like the waters cover the sea. Perfect? Oh, I couldn't work here if we're perfect. Never going to be perfect. Trying hard? Yes, sir. Proud of that. Practical? Proud of that. Loving the Lord, loving the church? Proud of that. Personnel will change. I miss Brother Overton, miss Brother Underwood. There are a lot of good folks we miss. Personnel will change, but our purpose won't. Curriculum will change, but our commitment won't. Teaching methods and delivery systems will change, but the good word of the good Lord won't. That's why I like to be here. We have both a storied past, a challenging present, and an inspiring future. Because the Lord has given us a place in His kingdom, an opportunity to work together to His glory. That's why I'm proud you're here. Because I'm too cognitive. I don't think enough on the emotional side of life. And we need to find ways to reconnect with all of you and others. Go by and see Melanie Irons. Say, Melanie, show me the picture of those ladies in India holding the Bible covers and being proud of those Bible covers that were made here on campus. Go by and see Charlotte Orr and Melanie and say, show me some pictures of those little girls, impoverished girls in rural Panama, and the lovely dresses that were made for them, many of them right here on this campus. You say, little thing? No. Done to the glory of God, it's not little. And it sure does my heart good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bajents. It's at this point now I'd like to take a moment to turn to our full-time faculty. And the reason I want to do that is because we believe firmly that our full-time faculty, and even our adjunct faculty as well, but because of other commitments, it's easier to talk about our full-time faculty. We believe them to be the representative strength of our university. And we believe that their training and their values allow them to accomplish the mission that we set out with in our purpose. And I want to introduce each of them with a little biography. And I want each faculty member, if you would, please to stand when I call your name as I introduce you with your bio. And what I want to challenge each of you to do as alumni is, following this session, I would like for you to mingle and get to know them better. I would love to challenge you to open up a conversation with at least one faculty member that you've never talked to or never met. Get to know them based on some of the things you hear about their work and their ministry, and based upon your common interests. And I believe it will bless you immensely to enter into those relationships with our faculty. So I have them in no particular order, although this one's kind of cheating. Dennis Jones, if you would. President Jones is a native of Florence. He's married to Freda, and he has 3 children, Rodney, Rita, and Jana. Dennis also has 9 grandchildren, 6 boys, and 3 girls. He is serving in his 23rd year as president of Heritage Christian University. He graduated from International Bible College in '77, from Murray State in '94, and he lists as some of his favorite ministry accomplishments preaching for the Rogersville Church of Christ in Rogersville for 11 years and serving 3 years full-time in evangelistic meetings. It's Dennis's heart's desire to be used by God in getting the gospel to as many people as possible. Thank you, President Jones. Dr. Ted Burleson. Dr. Burleson. Ted preaches in his hometown of Hamilton, Alabama. He's taught at the university level for 17 years. He and his wife, Karen, have 2 sons, one of whom is a college instructor, and the Burlesons have 3 grandchildren. As his greatest accomplishments, Ted lists that God has blessed him with a Christian wife and a Christian family that serve the Lord. He also says, God has opened doors for me that I did not deserve, and He put me in places I did not belong on my own. He lists as his ministry accomplishments preaching in one church for 16 years in Columbia, Tennessee, in his 36 years of preaching, and maintaining relationships with former students that span the years. Thank you, Dr. Burleson. Dr. Ed Gallagher. Dr. Gallagher completed his PhD in the history of biblical interpretation at Hebrew Union College in 2010. He's taught at HCU since 2006. Since that time, he's also been a member of the Florence Boulevard Church of Christ, where he now serves as the deacon over missions. He frequently teaches Bible classes, and he occasionally fills the pulpit. At Heritage Christian, he teaches graduate and undergraduate courses in biblical languages and biblical literature, and he supervises the adult education program. He's been a campaign leader for HCU, and he regularly takes international mission trips, including one to Haiti in about a week from now. He and his wife, Jody, have 3 children. As his academic accomplishments, he lists, he's had a book published by the prestigious and expensive academic publisher Brill, and he's made conference presentations across the United States and in Europe. Church-related accomplishments, he lists designing and administering the adult Bible class curriculum for Florence Boulevard and serving as the deacon of missions and participating in multiple international trips each year, Philippines, Haiti, Albania, directly involved in teaching and baptizing non-Christians. Brad McKinnon. Brad McKinnon is from Collierville, Tennessee. He served as the preaching minister for congregations in Summerville, Tennessee, and New Hope, Alabama, and Florence, Alabama at Mount Zion. Brad joined our staff in 2008. He currently serves as the Director of Christian Service, the Dean of Students, and Chapel Director. He and his wife, Bridget, have 3 children, Jack, Sydney, and Drew, and they're members of the Chisholm Hills Church of Christ, where Brad's currently teaching a series on 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. What you may not know about Brad is his academic presentations that he's made at Johnson University, the University of Memphis, North Carolina State University, and the University of North Alabama on issues that relate to historiography, American religion, and culture. And he's also earned a Master of Ministries degree from Freed-Hardeman and an MA from UNA, the thesis of which was on mission and social ethics in the churches of Christ. He's done ministry work, mission work in Canada, Fiji, Peru, and Vanuatu, and he's established community service programs in New Hope and Florence with over 100 volunteers. Thank you, Brad. Travis Harmon, our illustrious leader and video recorder in the back. Travis is the Director of Distance Learning here and has been working with Heritage Christian for over 10 years. He's married to Stacy, his wife of 20 years, who teaches Spanish at Mars Hill, and they have 2 daughters, Tristan and Sydney. Travis graduated from HCU in '98 with a bachelor's in Bible and is nearing completion of his Master of Ministry degree with a focus in counseling. Currently, he's a member of the Killen Church of Christ, and he's the interim minister at the Mimosa Church of Christ near Fayetteville, Tennessee. As his academic accomplishments, he lists that he graduated from Heritage with his Master of Ministry. He's done law enforcement training in Arkansas. And his preaching and teaching accomplishments are mission trips to Peru and India, establishing new congregations in Peru that grew, at least a new congregation in Peru that grew from 2 to over 30 in 1 year. Travis has dedicated a lot of his ministry to helping churches that are under the size of 50 members, including at least 6 interim preaching positions in the last 10 years. Thank you, Travis. Dr. Bajents. Bill earned his Master of Education in Counselor Education from Auburn and his D-Min in Biblical Studies from Southern Christian. He also serves as VP of Academic Affairs, as we've already said. He's also an elder and an associate minister with the Mars Hill Church of Christ, and he's also a counselor with the Alpha Center. His greatest academic accomplishments are the co-authoring of 2 books, Easing Life's Hurts and Equipping the Saints, and he also lists helping Laura earn her EDD as one of his greatest academic accomplishments. His ministry accomplishments that he prizes are serving with the African Christian Schools Foundation, teaching trips to Nigeria, and working with alumnus Philip Hendricks and Roslyn on the Western Cape of South Africa. Thank you, Bill. George Goldman. Is George with us today? Okay. Those of you that know George, I have to share his accomplishments. They are very short. Not that they are actually short, but what he sent me. His bio is married to Sarah, the most wonderful woman in the world. His greatest academic accomplishment is finishing school. And his greatest ministry accomplishment is persecuting students at HCU. Those of you that know George are smiling. Dr. Jeremy Barrier. Where's Dr. Jeremy Barrier? Jeremy's from Florence, and he's been in ministry since 1996 and full-time ministry since 2002. He's been at HCU since 2005 and married since 1998. He has 2 kids, Samuel, 11, and Sophia, age 9, who are wonderful. He enjoys hiking, leading Cub Scouts, and vacationing with his family. Jeremy has received prestigious academic honors such as the Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship in order to research and write a book on the Apostle Paul in Germany, which he's split over this last year and this coming year. And he published his dissertation in 2009. As his ministry accomplishments, he lists that God gave him an opportunity to travel with his father and J.C. Choate throughout Asia in 1994, where he learned a lot. And that allowed him to preach a gospel meeting with 3 others in 1999, where 52 people were baptized near Bangalore, India. God was and is glorified. Thank you, Dr. Barrier. Jamie Cox serves as our librarian, but she's also a member of our faculty and helps us in acquiring the resources we need, and she teaches in our programs as well. She's been the librarian, she's in the back. She's been the librarian at Overton Memorial Library since 1992, over 20 years of service to the university. She received her MLS from the University of Southern Mississippi. Dr. Rosemary Snodgrass. Where are you, Rosemary? Over here. Rosemary is a licensed professional counselor. She holds a Doctor of Education degree in counselor education from the University of Alabama. As the director of the Alpha Center, a counseling center, Rosemary works with the 4 other counselors on staff, as well as counseling with individuals and families. She teaches counseling and psychology courses at HCU. She's married to Don, an elder at Sherrod, and they have 3 adult children and 3 grandchildren. She lists as her academic accomplishments, she acquired her EDD and her LPC licensure, but she also helped to write curriculum and participate in training in the Healthy Families curriculum that's used in our court systems in Lauderdale County. Her ministry accomplishments are teaching ladies' classes at Sherrod Avenue and being a guest teacher in various women's classes and speaking at Ladies' Days as well. Thank you, Dr. Snodgrass. Soon-to-be Dr. Nathan Daly, ABD. Nathan Daly came to Heritage Christian University in 2008. He teaches courses in Old Testament, New Testament, and theology. In each of his courses, he hopes to guide his students into the ancient world of the Bible so that they can better understand the story of the God of Israel and of the early church, and thereby better appreciate how this story of God's ancient people is a powerful resource for the life of the church and for understanding God's mission in the world today. Nathan is married to Molly Pratt and has 2 children, Scott and Ella. Academic accomplishments, Nathan completed degrees in Bible and missions from Freed-Hardman, in Old Testament from Harding School of Theology, formerly Harding University Graduate School of Religion. He's got an MA and a Master of Divinity from there. An Ancient Near Eastern Languages and Cultures degree, Master of Arts degree from Brandeis University, and he's currently completing his PhD in religion at Claremont Graduate University. He's had the opportunity to serve the church in roles including youth ministry, college ministry, urban ministry, Bible class teaching, preaching in the Southeast, Massachusetts, and California, and Wyoming, and participating in stateside campaigns and mission work in Argentina. Thank you. Is Wayne Kilpatrick in the audience? Okay. Good. Wayne didn't send me anything, so I felt like I could say anything I wanted to about him. And here's the best I could come up with. Wayne sees dead people. Okay? And he likes that, and he sees them often. Okay? So you can tell him that that's how I introduced him. Wayne is as old as the school, and so it's kind of hard to find anybody that doesn't know Wayne. Okay? Now, what I'd like to do as we close, I have put in requests with some of these faculty members. Of course, it's 1:40, so we're at the end of our time. And I don't want to hold you over too late. But what I would like to do now is I would like to ask Dr. Barrier, if you would mind, to come share your story, the little story that I asked you to share. And Dennis, if it's possible, could you share that little snippet of story about what you heard from Charles Cole You've probably heard it before, but I want you to tell it again. Dr. Barry, if you would come, and then we'll follow that with Dennis, and then I'll close this out.
Two things. If anybody's traveling to Russia in the next 3 months, I've got a box of literature that somebody gave me that needs to get there, and I'm not going myself. And it's in my office, so please see me afterwards so we can get that to Russia. It's all in Russian. I remember the first time I began to appreciate the power of the gospel, and it was really appreciated. It was 1999. I was talking to P.R. Swami. We were getting ready to preach a gospel meeting in South India, and he said, "People are going to be baptized today." And I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "Because you're going to preach the gospel." And he says, "The gospel is powerful." And I remember that stuck out in my mind. And then as we finished up 2 days of preaching, there were people who wanted to be baptized. And I remember we had the opportunity, and we're going through and talking to every person who was basically making their confession to this crowd of 300 people. And one of the ladies there who was going to be baptized, you couldn't see her face. They wear veils customarily in India, and so she had her face covered, but usually you can still see the face. But on this particular occasion, she had completely covered her face so you couldn't see it. And so that actually kind of draws your attention rather than draws your attention away from it. And I remember thinking, I wonder why she's covering her face. And I remember as I got closer to her that I finally saw her face, and it was, forgive me, but it was grotesque. Her skin was very deformed, and I remember it shocked me at the moment. And I thought, what in the world has happened to this lady's face? So we went ahead and just greeted everybody, and we were kind to everyone. And then we went ahead and walked out. And, well, they took this group to go be baptized, and they asked us to step away when they did that because they didn't want anybody to be baptized for us. They wanted them to be baptized into Christ. And so as this lady went down to the water, one of the preachers protested and said, "We can't baptize her." And they said, "Why not?" They said, "If she goes down in that water, she's going to get sick. This is the most putrid water you could ever put somebody with open wounds in." Well, long discussion took place, and the lady said, "I will be baptized today." And other of the preachers said, "She will be baptized today. That is her wish." And they baptized her into Christ. The question was, why was her face deformed like that? In India, they have a custom that if your husband dies before you do, you're not eligible for marriage again, period. And the customary thing to do, I say customary because they say it doesn't happen today, but I saw it with my eyes, the person who had tried to do it. In times past, as the husband is burning on the funeral pyre, the spouse, the wife, is supposed to run and jump on that pyre and out of her devotion and loyalty to her deceased husband, die with him. Well, these are modern times, and she did a modern version of this. Her husband died, and so what was her response? She took gasoline and poured it on her head and lit it. She attempted to kill herself, and she failed. So sometime later, she doesn't even know how much longer it was, she woke up in a hospital room. And she was sitting there in a bed, not knowing why she's not dead, not knowing why she's alive, and why people are trying to nurse her back to health. But every day, two ladies that she had never met before came by and would sit next to her and talk to her to reassure her about her life and to try to give some type of meaning to her life. And those two ladies were Christians. And they continued to encourage her. That led up to this day when we had the chance to baptize her. And I realized that the gospel is powerful. It gives people purpose. It gives them the purpose. The purpose not just to live this life, but to live the eternal life. And I remember that was a very moving moment in my life, and I'll never forget it. Thanks for the chance.
Like you, I have always wanted to see everyone go to heaven. Amen? I mean, I'd like to see heaven just as there's no such thing as being crowded in heaven, but I would like to see everyone go. I've always felt that way. But there was a seminal moment in my young life where a statement was made by Brother Charles Coyle, our founding president, that changed me forever, and I still draw strength from that statement today. It was 1972, in the fall of 72, and we were meeting in Singleton's Barbecue Restaurant, which did not serve breakfast, but we were there at breakfast. Brother Coyle had rented the place, and and we had it packed full of people who were friends and supporters of this new school called IBC. And Brother Coyle was standing before the group after we'd eaten, and he was doing his usual great job of explaining and defining the dream. And you know what the dream was? That we would get the gospel to the entire world by the year 2000. He was powerful, he was motivational, he was inspirational, and I, as a student, freshman student, was very, very stirred and motivated by the things that he said. But I shall never forget when he finished his speech and it was time to take up the collection, which was the purpose of the breakfast meeting that day. Some well-meaning brother in the back stood up and said, "Brother Coyle, what are we going to say if we fail to get the gospel to the world by the year 2000? Bear in mind, this was 72, and the year 2000 seemed like a million years away, especially to a young man. Brother Coyle had thought about that. He probably had been asked that question more than once, and he was ready for it. He smiled, squared his shoulders, stuck out his chest, and looked at that man right in the eye, and he said, "We will be better for having tried." And the moment he said that, something clicked in my mind and in my heart that I knew that we could never fail as long as we were trying to get the gospel to as many people as we possibly can in this precious time we have remaining here on earth. So today my attitude has been that anytime anyone presents an idea or an opportunity to me, I try to be ready unto every good work. I've always been that way. Met with some people just before lunch today. They made a proposal to me, and I said to them, I am looking for a way to say yes. That's what I want to do. I want to say yes to your dreams and to your aspirations. And so when people come to me and they suggest something, and if I am convinced that it is within the will of God, then my reply and my attitude is I would like to see that tried. Why? Because Brother Coyle said we will be better for having tried. Amen? And that's the motto I try to live by. And I know that we've recruited people on this campus, both students and teachers and administrators, who have the same attitude. So thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much for being in attendance today. And remember the challenge that I gave you to try to intermingle with our faculty, get to know them personally on a personal level, and get to know them. And hopefully you've heard enough about them that you can engage in those relationships. We love and appreciate you as alumni, and I want to offer to you, when you engage with these faculty members, and also when you get a chance, come to me and talk to me about the future that you'd like to see for Heritage Christian University. I am interested in your ideas and your thoughts, and I value them very highly.